trying to get somewhere the sun's not in my face. Well, you know, there's a lot of negative stuff on the internet. And I watch a lot of negative videos because I'm probably, if we get into it, a negative person. But I'm gonna try to be neutral for a minute and talk about the fact that I think modern life is kind of a dead end, which, if we're being real, isn't a revolutionary take, but it is a problem because people want out of it, and there is no way out of it. That's why it's like, even my channel, you know, I sit here, I've got 14 subscribers, but if I make a video about splitting wood, I'm gonna get 100 views on those videos. And it's like, you know, I'm just a random dude. I'm just making videos about splitting wood and people are just watching them. It's like, it's because people want something simpler. They want to go back to the time where they're, you know, how their grandparents grew up. And you grew a victory garden, you split wood, you went to work, you laid brick or whatever, and had a family, and life was simple. And I think people want to go to a simpler time. The unfortunate truth, though, is that time doesn't exist. That simpler life doesn't really exist because we're all so intertwined in this, you know, modern whatever. And it sounds negative. I think, though, that it's a good thing, because I think, and I'm included in this, people kind of go to like regression. They want to regress to a cabin in the woods, and most people don't have the finances to even make that happen. Because to be honest with you, like hunting and farming, those right there, those are like rich dude sports nowadays. If you want to be a farmer, you got to either be born into it or have a ton of money. So there is no return to simple traditional living. You know, it's that time is past for the time being. I'm not saying that it's never going to go back to that being a possibility, or that you can't, carve yourself out of life, which is what I'm talking about. I think that part of the issue is that people misunderstand what makes them happy, which, you know, is a universal human thing. I don't know if we'll ever understand that, or if, happiness is even a really good goal. But I do think that part of the issue is, I was really going somewhere with that, and I completely got derailed. There's a freaking bee flying around me. What I was trying to get to is that the modern world is a dead end because materialism is a dead end. Sort of the things that you are taught aren't important, and the things you are taught that aren't important are actually important. Okay, like money is like, everyone's worried about money. I'm worried about money. You're worried about money because you have to have it to like get by. But money isn't the same as money used to be. Like, money used to be kind of a pretty obvious value proposition. You give me this, you cut this much wood and you give this to me, and that's how much money it's worth, and you can go buy this much food with it. Like, money at its core is really basic. It's a basic thing. Okay. But today, money is not distributed in a way that makes any sense. A cord of wood, which would heat your home for, let's say a cord of wood's $200. It's a really expensive cord of wood, but whatever. That'll heat your house for a winter if you live in a moderate climate. That's $200. That same $200 you can go and you can have lost in like 3 minutes of online gambling. Okay? And so the very basic thing of like wood isn't worth near the amount of labor that goes into it. But then there's people who sell like online courses that are made by AI. They make thousands of dollars, or like, they're just like, our system doesn't make any sense, is what I'm trying to say. There is no logic to it, which is why I think the solution is to opt out of what is not necessary. And what I mean by that is, like, for me, and listen, I'm not financially literate, I'm not smart, you know. I'd say I'm a pretty average IQ guy. But like, my thoughts on it are, if you can, you know, minimize the amount of money you're spending and work less, that's a good outcome. Okay, and if you can find something meaningful to like replace your time with, you know, my job is reasonably well paying, but it's only enough for me to be like house poor, and it's not like a growing thing where I'm going to be making tons of money in the future. It's a very, you know, but for me, like, my goal is just to get like as debt free as I can be, like pay off my vehicles and my minor debts, and just sort of like live. And I'm gonna learn how to hunt, and I'm gonna grow a garden, and I'm gonna split wood, and just try to, like, you know, offset the cost of living with through labor, which has kind of been my goal since I was a little kid, really. Because I don't know of anything else that would really even matter, you know. Because again, like, you know, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go work at a company and make make money doing nothing, and your job is meaningless. And people convince themselves their jobs mean something, and they 100% don't mean anything. Like, if you're like what do you work at a newspaper, like a digital newspaper, making clickbait, or you're like making sure a number goes up on a screen for some other person that's watching a screen. Like, it's all fake, and we all know it, and everyone knows their jobs are fake, which again is fine, because that's kind of out of your hands. Okay, what I'm saying is, going back to the basics, and I know that this is a luxury take. Not that I'm living luxury. I just live in a rural area, so it makes sense where I live. Most people don't live in rural areas, but I just I don't know if there's a solution hidden in there. For me, anyway, it's like I'm just gonna minimize what I'm spending, and you know, and materialism too is one of those things that can completely ruin your life. You can, and for me, it's cars. Like, I get into, I want this car, I want that car, I want that truck, I want that truck. It's like, listen, you're not ever gonna get ahead worrying about trucks and cars. You're not. There's no good solution. There's no end game where you come out on top. Your best bet is buy something reliable and drive it forever. And don't think about it. But materialism in general, people like buying clothes and buying like technology and just random bull crap that doesn't mean anything. It's just gonna pile up in your room. I think the solution is just to again, cut back costs, find satisfaction somewhere elsewhere, and try to keep yourself sane. Being outside is the #1 way of that. I think the more time you can spend in nature, the better. And, you know, again, family's the biggest one. You know, I apologize if this video is rambly, but I'm trying this format out because I like to think a lot. I talk a lot to myself and think a lot. So I'm wondering if I don't have some nuggets of good ideas every once in a while. But whatever, who cares?